to be quite an interactive session, this one. I'll just explain how it'll work. There's a screen you'll see with a big map on, and you might want to make that full screen. I think you can just click on it and do something and still see your comments. So you don't have to look at my face for the whole thing. I definitely want to give people that option. And we're going to do a low traffic neighborhood from scratch. And I don't know where it is because you're going to tell me where you think I should do one. So that's the first thing I'll ask in the comments then. Where should we look at today? And any ideas? Might be one that you're working on, might be near you, but if anybody wants to suggest in the comments where we have a look at, I'll see if I can find it on this map, and then we'll start designing a low traffic neighborhood. And if nobody's, oh, here we go. Whitley Bay. I'm not going to take down that Whitley Bay. There's an interesting one. You'll have to. Where's Whitley Bay? Where is Whitley Bay? You're gonna have to guide me. Sounds like it's up near Newcastle. Yeah, so it can be a town, an area. Like, oh yeah, someone's done a. Yeah, there's a few times on Newcastle. I know where. Oh yeah, it is up near Newcastle. Let's do Newcastle then. I know where that is, and there's Whitley Bay. So yeah, like it doesn't really matter what the size is at the moment, but let's do this one because we got coastal town. Let's start looking at the shapes of it. So it's a reasonable sized town. I think we can do a fairly big chunk. So like one of the key bits for me when I'm doing a low traffic neighborhood is to think about the network. Don't just do one little area. Some people go, I'm doing a low traffic neighborhood, I'm putting a filter in. So in the middle of one street, in the middle of nowhere, that's working. But how does it relate to its surrounding areas and the surrounding neighborhoods and stuff? So I'm going to do like how I go about putting these things together, and really we might put a little bit of a walking cycle network in there as well. Wouldn't that be nice? So let's do Whitley Bay then. Whitley Bay, because it's a fairly reasonable one. So what size should a LTN be? I hear you wondering. It's not fair. It'd be great when we meet again, but I'll start doing it. Normally about 1 kilometre squared. That's roughly what I'm looking at. So I'm looking at this this area here in North Tyneside, Whitley Bay. I'm going, okay, well, let's get a few dimensions on it. Let's have a look at roughly how wide this is. So it's like 200 meters. That's like 500 meters. So like, yeah, it's going to be like the various areas of this. So okay, yeah, we've got a decent sized town, and there's some interesting shapes to think about here as well. And we've got like a bit of a railway line. So anyway, let's get cracking. The first thing to do then would be like to put in where all the barriers are, all the difficult places to walk, and the kind of perimeters of our low traffic neighborhoods, because we're going to do a few of them. So I'll get a polyline set up. Let's make it red. Hello. Oh, I can't see all the things because I've got this minimized. I'll just use a red line. So yeah, like it's handy on a map like this because they're normally drawn in. I normally pick up rat runs, but I'm not going to do that now. But let's have a little look at this Whitley Bay area. So where's difficult? Where's the perimeters of our would-be low traffic neighbours? Let's start colouring these things in. An idiot. Come here. There we go. Get rid of that one. So I thought I could talk to you and show you loads of slides, but why not actually do a workshop where we can put stuff together? So I might ask you to do something to help me as well in a bit. So I'm just going to like roughly put in where all the barriers are. Wow, yeah, let's go. Yeah, let's pop that there for the moment. I'm closing these off to make little cells. So here's our first low traffic neighborhood, just defined by these perimeters. And we've got a railway line as well, which is definitely going to be a little bit of an awkward one. Like, how do we get from this neighborhood to this neighborhood? Let's draw this one in as well. Now, we'll at this stage, I'll do it in a minute. All right. So I'll do a little area here. Well, let's just take it to the edge here. There's a slightly larger one. worry about that in a minute. La, 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 la. No laughing at my CAD skills, please. I'll take it to the railway line, actually. Let's do that. Let's edit that down. Yeah. Oh, I went a bit mad with that. All right, so we got another one, and it looks like a bit of a shape of one here. Does that cut through there? Big hole in the middle of this area. It's going to be tricky to do one in there, but we'll do one on this one as well. And this one here, like clearly there's the railway line, so it's going to be quite severed. So probably going to be 2. Yeah, let's do that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that nice. So I'm looking for the barriers, anything that's kind of difficult to walk and cycle round. Got a couple done in here. And we're just kind of highlighting it. Whitley Road, looks like it's probably going to be a little bit of a problem, but we might want to do something about it. We'll make all this promenade one as well. So it might well be that you treat this area as one, but at the moment I'm going to divide it in 2, and we'll see when we dig down what our obvious one's going to be. Let's put all these in. Don't do that. I've minimized everything so I can see stuff on 2 screens. I'm normally much better on it. Just that one a little bit. Just getting all that down there. I'll add another vertex here. I'll add another vertex here. All right, we're starting to get a few little areas now. That's that. Oh, look at this block up here. So we could keep going and do all the way till we get to Newcastle, but I'm just gonna do a few and show how they interact. Let's do this one here. I'm gonna pull that across, go down like this. Through that one. So yeah, you can see what I'm doing. I'm just looking at the difficult roads. I'm just gonna close that door. Can't hear the kids. Brilliant when I can leave the house again. Well, let's do this one here as well. Done that. And what I like to do then is just colour them all red. Then I know what my perimeters are. I'll mess that one up. Come on. What am I doing? Hold on, I'm just going to have to make this a bit bigger so I can see the colours. There we go. Right, now we got red. And now I can minimize that again and you can see it. Yes, there we go. No problem. Yes. So yeah, so there's the perimeters of our low traffic neighborhoods, and we've got like a few that kind of join in together. So that's our first stage. The next bit I like to think about in terms of like walking and cycle networks. Sorry, just excuse me 1 second. That's better. Oh, here we go. Let me actually look at a few comments in there. So there's many people. Yeah, it's a filter. So apologies. Just join. Just reading what the questions are. Best practice on placement of filters. That's what we're going to get to. I'm going to go through this bit quick, and we will get there. We're only 10 minutes in, Matt, but we're going to zoom right in, and we're going to design them up as well. We're going to zoom right in. So I'm just doing the kind of overall network view first, so we will get there. And I've now shouted at my kids, so there'll be no more disturbances. Brilliant. All right, so let's have a look. We've got a whole bunch of low traffic neighborhoods around a kind of central core, which really is kind of the definition of a mini Holland as well for those that are working on those bids. A mini Holland's a series of like low traffic neighborhoods around a central core. That's it, and then we're adding the different elements of it. But it's really important to think about these as well. So the next thing I want to think about as well. Okay, you can imagine these are. Oh, let's start doing it. You can imagine that these are basically like perimeter cells. So it's like, how do you get across these difficult ones? If there was no way of crossing in and out, then effectively this whole area would be closed off, and you could effectively like hatch it out. Say, oh yeah, that's all closed off that bit. But once we put a few crossings in, we'll effectively start opening it up again as well. So there's a few like different visual ways you can look at these things as well. Okay, so let's think about where some crossings would be and where some potential routes would be. Let's drop a few points. So I'm looking at here. So this Park View one's an interesting one, like for how busy it is. If we avoid it, there's not too many other ways of making connections. Perhaps over here. Let's put our first potential crossing in there, and I'll just drop that in. We'll keep that color. So I'm just dropping where a few crossings would be at the moment. So that's good. If you come down there, oh, there's no way of getting through there. Oh, but we could effectively get through to this Park View. But I think something needs to be done about this Park View for this low traffic neighborhood. So I'm going to have a look here. I'm going to look at like how we reduce the through traffic on this Park View here to make this one cohesive neighborhood later. But at the moment, I'm just looking for where can we drop points. It's got to be there. We haven't got too many options. So I'm looking, how do you join from one low traffic neighborhood to the next, because this will like affect it. And I'm basically doing perimeter treatments. Now I notice when a lot of people do in low traffic neighborhoods, again, like someone's mentioned it as well. Yeah, sorry. They tend to think about all the internal stuff, but it's just as important to treat the perimeters. In fact, a lot of the conflict comes about where like, oh, you made there nice and clear, but I've got more traffic now. So really think about the perimeters as well. It's the two that go together. What's internal and what's on the perimeter, and there's very different things you do to it. So we'll get to that. But one of the key things is like you've got these barriers and you're sending all the traffic from these things eventually from these neighborhoods. These are going to get busier. They're going to become even more of a barrier to walk and cycling. So we've got to think about how do you get into and out of these areas in some kind of active way. So there's our way there. This railway line, I check it out on Google Map, but it looks like there's something going on here that maybe we could use some kind of path, that maybe it's an underpass or maybe it's a bridge, but there's some way, or maybe we'll have to spend £1 million upgrading it to make it work properly. But that looks like our only shot of making the connections into this neighborhood. And I'm going to focus on this neighborhood now. I'll stick a couple of crossings in over here first, just so we know where routes are going. That looks like a fairly good spot for a potential crossing. Anything else along here? Maybe not. And we've got the sea on that side. I'll just put another couple of ones down here. How do we get across there? Not too many connections over this side to make, so I'm going to have a look to how do we get at this lot of people in there. Is there potential routes? Maybe there. At the moment, we're just going off the shapes. It's just based purely on morphology here, like what of our kind of options, and we'll focus on this one's like to north of town as our key low traffic neighborhood that we're going to do something about. So we've got like ways in and out of it. So you could say at the moment, if there's no easy way to walk across there, then this is effectively cut off. We put all these crossings in, it's effectively open. And really, your key walking and cycle routes would just be like the quickest way between the points. So we were going to plot a cycle route in here. You could maybe probably going to have to go down like this. I have to do something because that village court is effectively closed off. So there's some kind of potential for a cycle walking connection that way. Potential this way. Hope you can see all this. So we could potentially have another walk and cycle route there. So we've got a local priority network going across there. Again, relying heavily on this Park View. which if I had more screens available, we'd have a quick look at on Street View. But I'm hoping our people from the local area will tell us about it as well. All right, all good. So we've got like the basis of it, and then you go, okay, join the dots. Where can we put a crossing? It'd probably be good to have a little decent route along there. And really, if you look at like the Greater Manchester B network, that's basically what we did. Where are the barriers? Where can we put crossings? How do you join it all together? And that's your local route network. And really like that. On top of that, really like is your rapid cycleway ones, your propensity to cycle one, your LC whip routes, which would be like, oh, can we do something along here? Can we do the promenade? Can we do Whitley Road? And we'll transform that whole area. So we could maybe let's say we're going to do the promenade in this case. So all this is going to be like a great walking cycle route. And again, I'm talking about LTNs, but it's still good to know what the overall plan is. What's the key route? So we'll say, the key route in this area that we should do something solid about would be this promenade, because that's going to be nice, isn't it? And it shouldn't just be a horrible busy road. It should be great, shouldn't it? We've got our main route coming in here, which connects with our low traffic neighborhood. A little bit of a connection that we might make across there to get tied into it. But effectively, once we get across here, you've got routes over to the main route through from our low traffic neighborhood as well. So we're starting to put a little bit of the network together. Got our main strategic route. We've got like our local cycle networks, walking cycle networks, and we've got where we need crossings. So we're kind of halfway there. Let's move in a little bit further. And then we start thinking, well, the theory of a low traffic neighborhood or 15-minute city or whatever you want to call it, filtered permeability, these things have been environmental improvement zones, super blocks. It's all the same thing. It's just saying, well, through traffic shouldn't be going into residential areas. It's an obvious one. And we've had like a growth of it's doubled in the last 10 years, the amount of traffic going down residential streets, particularly in light of sat navs and your Googles and your Wazes. And yet you would have thought it'd be like a massive outcry. Why is there so much traffic going down my street? But it's all been fixed at when you try and do something about it, that's the big outcry. But the majority of people still want this. As Rupert said earlier, the majority of people don't want lots of through traffic bombing down their street. So in this case, should traffic be on the main route corridor, or should it be coming off here to get into the town centre, or should be going anybody that's coming from the north should really be faced with going down the main A road and then into the town centre, rather than going, hey, let's cut down through all these neighbourhoods and sever them. That's why I've got my eye on Parkview, which I know nothing about at the moment, but I know that looks like it's a potential connector, and as a parallel A road to really do all these neighbourhoods have to suffer. And this is kind of like the main route through the area. So could we do something about it to calm it down? That's going to be the question of the day. All right, so we moved in, and then we're going to have a little look at it. Let's zoom in a little bit. I'm trying to keep this as big as I can on your screen. So we've got a series of one-way streets, but the theory of all these kind of things is that there shouldn't be any through traffic. There shouldn't be a way to drive a car through the area. And lots of them are being fed by this one. Now, when it comes to filters, so I'm picking up on what Matt suggested now. Like, my style is I like to do the fewest number of them. That's going to get so it's a bit of a logic puzzle. If someone can go in there and get across there, they can go in there and get across there, they can go in there. Anywhere that they can get through. The name of the game is to just stop any kind of through route, but still enable people to get into and get to any part that they want to go, but not go through. So it's a really simple little logic puzzle. So I try to find the fewest number possible to do that. We're really into the kind of the first element that's internal, which is like the placement of the filters to stop this kind of through traffic. We'll look at some different examples and in a moment. So we've got our kind of area. So where would a drop of filter to stop this through there? So one like Parkview. Well, let's start having a look at these things. I'll just get onto a different view, so we can start getting a little bit real about it. Okay, so you can see it's not that big a road. It's got some signal junctions on it. And it's really like it's carrying a lot of this through traffic through from the main A road up here, which is a massive signalised roundabout. So there's a real incentive to go down here and not head along the A road and down our promenade. Maybe we can do something about it. But really, in terms of like its look and feel on this road, it's not that big. I can't see it at the moment, but I might jump into Google Maps and have a look at it. But can our local people tell me if there's any buses that go down here? And look, it's a 20-mile-an-hour street, and it's just parked up. It's saying, "Please don't be a through road," isn't it? And we got zebras in there. Oh yeah, the cycle. I was going to mention that, Martin. Martin's mentioned in the chat the cycle streets one, and it's absolutely brilliant. You almost don't need to get people in a room to spot all the rat runs now, because they picked it up on cycle streets in there. Utterly swear by it, using it every day of my life. So please don't leave the workshop straight away and look at it, but definitely get yourself on that over lunch and have a little look at it. And he's put the password in there, so God bless you for that, Martin. It is brilliant. But yeah, we're going to get into a little bit more of the design on this one. So we can see, well, yeah, I think this has a potential to be like a local community hub, really, rather than just a through route. So we'll start thinking, let's go back to the other view, just so we're a little bit theoretical again. And so if we go back to the Deegan filter technique, what's the smallest amount of filters you would need to stop it coming through there? Well, if you close there, you're kind of done. That'd be one way of doing it, but then you've got like an awkward turnaround. So let's look at our first option. So like we said, okay, we'll just close this end road. So rather than it being a signal control junction, it's just closed across there. Now, is the space for people to turn while there's plenty of footway and there's like access to the properties and stuff? Oh yeah, you would be able to get a turning head in there. So that'll be the first thing to do. Well, actually, we can sort out this entire area with one closure, and then anybody that's coming in to feed is coming in from the surrounding ones, but literally no one's going through along this side. So that'll be one. You might even like go, okay, well, we'll let them in here, but maybe we'll do a filter at this point here, and so they can come in and turn around and feed that area, and everybody coming in this way could feed that area. Oh, will that be palatable? So let's have a look at this weak point here for the placement of a filter as well. Then we got a few people, because the people up here will be, oh my God, I have to go all the way around the town to come in if you do that one filter there. But if you can let in a few of them, you can maybe look at a more even split, you might get it in. So it's a little bit offset, but yeah, you could happily, so just replacing, if you were going to do that and twist them, you could do something like this. So design the filters now. Convert it to an arc. Ooh, what we done? Just doing a little bit of terribly slow design. So you've got like got an interesting little square then. Let's convert that to an arc. So that's like what a potential filter could look like here. And then you got all this space, plant a few trees, put a few benches in, and basically have everybody coming in and feeding there and feeding this area, feeding the surrounding areas, but you don't have anybody bombing through. And then maybe if this is a bus route, make that a bus gate, let them go through. Anybody feeding this way is fed through the other way. So yeah, that could be a potential if we do it there. But I'm still not sure that's quite the perfect place to point them. And obviously, it's best doing this stuff with local people as well, and saying, okay, well, we're still going to give you access everywhere, but well, should we feed this section here from the top and this bunch of houses from the bottom? Where would we put a filter to do that? Or maybe round here. But then will they filter in and come through like that? Difficult. So you can see like once you start putting it in the midpoint, you need a few more filters. And it's like, oh, we might handle one. if you handle it right on the edge, it's job done. But if you're doing it more in the middle to allow like easier access, you might have to plug more holes. That's kind of the way the logic puzzle goes. But let's have a little look at it. So they can feed in from the top, but we don't want them coming down. And if we were leaving this as a kind of main through route and splitting it in two, and then we'd be looking at like stopping routes like this through. But if we can handle this main road and really hit it here, then it's a much simpler operation. But then when we speak to local people, I'm like, oh, actually, that's like 8,000-9,000 vehicles a day that are going down there. You're going to absolutely kill all the junctions here, and here. And we'll look for some kind of mitigation to do that. But I still think there's legs in doing this one. Let's have a look at. So what else is happening? Okay, so we've got this little gyratory system here that's feeding a lot of people into this area. I'm kind of saying, well, let's have a look at it. It sounds grand, doesn't it? And it's the A road, so it's going to be difficult to mess with. Let's have a little look at how this one. And we've got a sports stadium, a gyratory around the sports stadium. But it's a nightmare when there's stuff happening here. But there's not much parking there, so it's really just like a local sports stadium stuff, isn't there? So we've got to think, well, does this need to be an A road come through there? We start like thinking, actually, wouldn't it be nice if people could walk? And this actually felt like it was part of this community. And then you're starting to get in the real like bold design stuff. Can you do something about this epic junction, which is probably handling coaches and all sorts of things going through there? Can we do something there to tie this together? Could this be like a cycle track or local parking? So we might want to downgrade that and just have them again circulating around, or just allow access to the car parks, but they'd be effectively block it there, so they're kind of coming into that car park, and they can even come into this car park a different way. So you've still got full access everywhere, but again, that kind of through route gyratory is going to be causing a lot of damage to the to walking and cycling in this area. So I'm definitely got my eyes on doing some kind of filter there. So let's put that in. Let's just close that off. Just drop a few shapes in there to debate. And like I say, I always like doing this with the local people and engaging them in the transport planning and the logic puzzle nature of it. And then people are just solving puzzles. Well, actually, is it fair for everybody to go down there? Oh, no, how would you do it so that your kids can play out there? All right, well, let's put one in here. Oh, should we all decide on this one here as being the most logical? Yeah, let's do that. And particularly with like some of the stuff that cycle streets have got, you can really interact. It's going, look, all these streets are rat runs. That's not that great, is it? How would we solve this puzzle? Because what we're doing isn't rocket science. I'm showing this in a kind of simple way there, so you can still maintain access to the car parks. Maybe like disconnect the two to stop them coming through there, but didn't notice that they joined. But yeah, so you can still provide access to the car park, but again, remove this as a through route, and then they can all walk and start engaging in healthy activities, and then get on the walking and cycle route, enjoy the beach. Beautiful. Oh, Whitley Bay, that is where my boss comes from as well. Better be careful. Could do them on the line here. So anyway, so we've got our routes. Let's have a look at see where else we should put stuff. And it's all different scenarios. So when you're going through in a conversation with people and you say, well, what if we do it there? You go, okay, well, this will be the impact here. But treat it as that kind of logic and go, well, that's the theory. Don't have it leaky. Have it that none can go through and get that conversation going. Well, actually, we'll suffer if you do that. Well, what if we do this for you and send them there? That's the point. So all these filters, and it's worth at this point just talking about the perimeter treatments as well. So let's say we are going to put some like solid connections in there. Let's say we put like that stopper in there, and we stop them going through there. Then you've effectively divided the whole thing. No one's going through this way. No one's getting out there. You've really got some madly circuitous routes to go onto, but we've still got a few things that we might want to plug. you're like a like that connection that I just shown. So you might get a little bit of heat on some of these. So talk to them and go, well, if this gets bad, albeit it might be so circuitous. And that's the thing, like even if you don't fully block everything off, it might be so circuitous that people go, I'll just stay on the main road. Because we're having a battle with your sat navs and your Googles, and your Google Maps is a little bit of a nightmare. I was talking to someone the other day about, man, access only, I think, is the way to destroy the sat navs and the Wazes and all that sort of thing. If you can make it so that you put an access only order on it, even if you're not enforcing it, it'll pass through to Google Maps straight away, and they won't be able to send them down there because you'd have to live there to get that kind of access. So for me, all residential streets overnight, you could just flick it and do one traffic order for all your residential streets and effectively make everywhere a low traffic neighborhood with one traffic order. No one's quite bold enough to do that yet, but it could be done. I think as the clock's ticking on climate change, we'll have to look at stuff like this to tackle the fact that people are being routed off main roads. As soon as it's getting congested here, they'll all be weaved off around the back of streets that are completely like inappropriate for through traffic. That's the kind of world we made at the moment. But if that was the case and people were running down there to avoid congestion at a junction there, if you made this access only, just pass that traffic order through, then the sat nav's going to have to weave them somewhere else. And then once it gets so circuitous, they might as well just wait there. That's kind of how we win. So you could in Whitley Bay make all these access only, and you wouldn't have to actually put any filters anywhere. You wouldn't take all the traffic out. Your wily locals would kind of know, but anybody that's kind of sat navving their way through, or like coming for a lovely day at the seaside, is not going to be routed through your residential street at the moment. Anybody that is coming over from Newcastle, if there's a congestion at one of these junctions, they're going to be routed down these tiny little back streets. And you can see it, when the sat nav's gone wrong, and someone puts like a temporary blockage in there, and you see a whole bunch of people on their phones going, what's happening here, or adjusting their sat navs because they've all been sent down that residential street. We've got a duty of care to tackle this, and the fact that we let it creep up on us for 10 years, not doing anything about it, is insane. And for me, that's the way the conversation should be had with local people. Anyway, that's there's something to think about. So access only is what we're trying to make. Got a few little connections, so I would be worried about this connection off here and something happening here. Let's just have a little look at what that looks like on site. So from a picture there. Yeah, triangles. We've got a little bit of an awkward access triangle going on here. So really, like if you're in Waltham Forest, your classic perimeter treatments that they did, it's continuous footways. Let's drop one of those in there. For anybody that's coming along this kind of main road, will be like, oh, is that a footway? Is this some kind of home zone? They'll definitely be thinking that they're going to a different area. And it's the sort of thing that makes you think, will I be able to make it through? Or this might be one of those things that I heard on Jeremy Vine, those low traffic neighborhoods. It's not worth the hassle. So that's definitely worth thinking about. And if they do turn across, they're going to be slowing right down to make their way across. It's quite like, a big road to do this on, but it's not that big. They've definitely done it on busier roads in Waltham Forest, so you could effectively tighten the whole thing up and do kind of that as a perimeter treatments. Other kind of classic perimeter treatments while we're on it, before we get inside again. Traffic calming. So you got to think, if you're taking all the traffic out that was going down there and it's all displaced onto this road, you can see people live on it. Then they'll be like, oh, this is going to be awful. Oh my God, are there any schools? Let's check for that. So you're looking for what I like to call sensitive receptors because it does get sensitive. So look, we haven't got any schools along these perimeter roads. I've got that stadium we looked at, but I can't see what any of the schools in there. The stadium is a school. Thanks for that. So we've got a super sensitive receptor here. So this could be a problem, albeit it's already an A road on this side, and if you can do the blockage of Park Road and make it easy for everybody to walk over there, we could be on a real winner there that you've got access to it. But say like if that school was there, and you're saying, oh, all the traffic's coming off this area and they're all going down there, then you have got a sensitive receptor on somewhere that you're sending more traffic, then you are at risk of them all going out. They're going, why are you trying to kill our children, like with the face masks on and the rest of it? So you've got to treat these things. So maybe it's like a speed thing or volume thing. So your classic things are like traffic calming on your perimeters, trees, greening, air quality mitigation on a road like this. But it's not that big. Let's have a look at the road over here. But yeah, the kind of bigger the road is, yeah, actually it does get a little bit large. You've got more chance of mitigating the increase in cars and the poor air quality concentrations that you're getting there, because you could effectively put a bunch of trees in there. We're looking at cycle routes in Manchester where we're putting kind of hedgerows next to it, kind of birch trees and all sorts of stuff that will filter the pollutants out. So you've got more space to disperse the concentrated airflow, whereas if you've got them all bombing down right through the middle of it on narrow kind of residential streets and they're all cutting through, there's nowhere for it to go. It's going to be channeled in there, and it's really difficult to treat. That's one of the things that you've got to say, and that's why I keep making a point about perimeters. That's where I feel we've been losing the argument, but people haven't had perimeter plans. They've not been looking at or doing actually as a sensitive receptor at school. What are we doing here to manage that? So can we put in some additional greening? Like, is it a traffic calming thing? Will they be worried about the increased volumes? Will they need to put in some increased crossings so you can get across there? Do something solid, protected junction there. I'll talk about that later, how we design something like that from scratch. Could something like that in to help people get across the increased road? So it's going to be great in here, but there's some nice houses on there, and these people are going to take to court the whole way, unless you've shown that you can offset the damaging effects of these extra cars by putting more crossings in, by making it like a cleaner, by mitigating the air quality. So that's a big thing to check on you. And I know like Waltham Forest came foul of that. There was a few schools ago, and we've got more traffic on past. What's the plan? We go, well, everywhere's reduced. Yeah, but it's worse for us, and that seems unfair. And if it's unfair for one person, a lot of people can kind of miss out. And the battle does seem to rage around perimeter roads from my experience. So again, look at those classic things to do. Even if you're doing the side road zebras that we're looking at in Manchester as well, there's some decent ways to handle it. So crossings, traffic calming, trees, bushes, anything to green it and and redistribute the air. They classic perimeter ones. How are we doing? We don't know. I better get into the internal ones as well. So I'm just looking. So I'm really excited about this area now. I'm really excited about this area because, one, it's a school and it's not a stadium. So yeah, this is like a bit of a focal point. I've been looking for shops. Can't quite Google it, but it looks like there's some kind of commercial activity along here. So here's our kind of like our low traffic neighborhood center. And the battle will be like if there are like small independent shops and they go, well, we rely on all this through traffic coming off the A road and wiggling through our area. Don't send them all to the promenade, or we're dying here. And the case is going to be, well, you're dying here because none of this lot feels safe to walk to you. And you're going to make that case. So what can we do to make this a really attractive local high street? So one, if you've effectively got closures and it's really quiet in there, pull the footways out, formalize the parking, get some benches, get some outdoor cafe space in there. It could be a really nice little local hub, particularly as people are working locally a little bit more now. They want somewhere to go to have a coffee, to go and hang out. All they don't want to do is like jump in a car, drive to the centre of town, or drive over to Newcastle and come back. They might be working in Newcastle but working from home. Then it's like, well, where can I do a nice little walk to get a cup of coffee and to hang out? And that's going to be good for the shops down there. Or where can I do a little bit of an exercise ride? Oh, look, they're going to put in like a track down there. I think there already is one from my memory there. Hold on, I'll just read what the comments are. Yeah, there you go. So the shops are on Parkview and Whitley Road too. Yeah, there we go. So yeah, I thought I recognised the tops of shops. I'll just read Kit's one. Isn't the argument now that if we're shoving more traffic onto the perimeter roads, then congestion and such will increase, which they complain about? How can we say that reducing traffic capacity to put greenery in to help with air quality will help? Well, yeah, that's what you're gonna. You have to show it, like you have to show that you're doing some kind of perimeter treatment. That you're sending the traffic there, but you're going to manage it. And so we've recorded of it, the stuff we're doing in Manchester, or you see those type of bushes and say, actually, that's going to reduce the air quality by 40%. So even though there's slightly more cars going along there, you've got formal crossings to get away from the area, and you've got like air quality mitigation through these bushes. So actually, there's not as many particulates going into your house, so you've got a better chance to treat it. That's the thing. So it's kind of at the moment got to go somewhere. And and maybe you think, well, actually, should we do something about reducing the traffic volume here? Should there be like some larger redistribution of it? That's when you get into it. So whenever you're going to take traffic out, you're going to go, well, where actually should this be the main road in? Actually, don't we want to keep them all on these corridors? Don't really we want them to just bolt through and avoid going through the center of town? You can start making some kind of larger strategic decisions. But like fundamentally, if we're just concentrating on one, you've got to think of it area wide. Like, well, how would we mitigate it? And if there's benefits for everybody in the area, you want a bit of a chance there. Okay, where was I? Oh yeah, we were looking at some kind of placemaking stuff now. So yeah, Park Road. I'm really excited about it being a school street. So already, if we didn't get the filter in, and I would very much like to get that filter in. Let's have a look at it again. So you could put a restriction on it, and there's quite a lot of these out there now, so that vehicles could only drive that couldn't drive through it during like school drop off and pick up, or really encourage parents to do it. Maybe they go around and they could get into the car park, and you do a whole stretch along here that's effectively closed, and then when the kids are coming out or getting picked up, they can hang out, they can chat with their friends, they can do stuff on site. I'm not sure what's going on in this site here, but it'd be interesting to know if anybody knows. But yeah, so you've got a real potential for a school street there to make that kind of happen, and potentially then you're looking for places. Well, is there anywhere where the kids can play? Or like another big car park there, people to come in there. So again, you can allow that local access, but effectively close it off. So access to that car park there, access to that car park there. This could all be school street, so the kids could come down. It's effectively quiet, and you can hang out, go around there. So then we're looking for additional things. So is it a problem getting to school? Are the cars dropping off all over the street there? Are they not going into the car park to let the kids because the parents don't want to cross that road? So effectively, if you closed it, you'd really get those kind of benefits going that way. So I think that would be a pretty interesting one. And then it's talking with the community and go, well, we've got a little bit of a high street here, and you've got town and cafe culture, so there's some real chance for some placemaking and spending a fair bit of cash and making it like a bit more economically vibrant along here than like other internal things like I won't say parklets, but like pocket parks and stuff like that. How near to greenery are they? So again, can you get access to these paths and greenery? And really, you really want, if you live here, then it's all going to be about beach living. What you don't want to do is cross barrier after barrier after barrier, so your kids can't go and play at the seaside. Like if they can get through this, walk across, head through the park, stick on your bike ride, go and enjoy the beach, get back, then parents have got less to worry about. At the moment, if you live here and your child wanted to play at the beach, you're going, well, you're crossing this barrier road and you're crossing this barrier road, then you've got to deal with the horrible road. That's 3 major issues for them to get from there. Whereas if we can filter here and make a local kind of hub, then they're walking across the cafe space, then it's like through the school street, or hopefully like some kind of permanent closure to make this nicer, more tied in with the school, so it gets a bit more of a campus kind of feel. Walking through there, or go across the cycle route, which has got the connections in there. Then you're at the beach. It's much less to worry about if we can start dealing with it. That's what you got to think. Do you want to be able to walk to the beach? Because it'd be a crime not to be able to do it. and to take a car from there to go round and then look for a car park or place to park there to get to the beach that you live right next to would be a little bit of a crime. So you're framing it over the issues that you want. Like then that's a good, like you got a 15-20 minute walk to the beach. That should be great, shouldn't it? I would want to live there. In fact, I do think it's quite nice. So yeah, one of the things I didn't mention as a kind of a perimeter treatment is things like parklets, which can be quite good as like just ways of formalising the parking. And again, like the continuous footway, lets you know that you're coming into a bit of a different zone. There's something going on behind here. Someone's thinking about people. So you've got your greening and your traffic calming and the parklets. There's all right, you're into some kind of different world. Once you're inside, it should all be so calm that you're really looking about residential cycle parking and things like that, stuff like feet hangers and stuff like that. What a lot of people have been trying to do is put traffic calming inside like a low traffic neighborhood, and really it should be the fact that there's only local people going to local access or people delivering there. With the lack of through traffic should mean that you don't necessarily need to put vertical traffic calming everywhere. If you are going to do stuff like that, for me, that's for the perimeter to offset any kind of a negative behavior, as it were, as a result of what you've done in there. So for me, like when I see a whole bunch of traffic calming, I go, well, why are you calming the traffic? Why didn't you reduce it so it's just local people? So here we go. I've got a few more questions now. I'll try and look more rather than just going on. So yeah, Ruth, one of the main objections I'm hearing to the ideas of LTN is that the traffic isn't bad enough to justify one. So residents will suffer more from not being able to drive it. Yeah, it's an interesting one. That so like, would you let your kids play out is the test. So like, and it's usually going to be if there's any kind of through movement that's allowable, most people wouldn't do it. If you're on the end of a cul-de-sac, then most people will let the kids play out. So you really want that kind of a end of cul-de-sac vibe in there. That's the kind of test. So yeah, people could do anything. We could all just like all the streets are completely fine if everybody just left the car and decided to walk and cycle. Then it's perfect. But given that you don't trust anybody else will do that, we'll have to do something a little bit bolder till we get there. So for me, is your street an advert for hanging out? If you saw a child walking in the middle of the road there, would you be like, what the hell are you doing? Or would you be like, yeah, that seems all right. That's the test. That's the test. It's really like will kids play out? Like, well, I definitely used to do, and quite a few of the people. There's some young people here as well that were probably always shepherded around by cars, but people of my age were just kicked out of the house and were quite happy playing in the street all day. So that's really your test to go back to them and go, well, like, so, in Manchester, it's got that kind of 12-year-old test. So like would a 12-year-old be able to independently play in that street or do stuff? And would you be able to just like watch your young'uns run around there if you haven't got space? And interestingly, in this one here, there's not many gardens. It's fairly high density, and your nearest really bit of green space that's accessible is your beach. So really, like, there'll be a need for like letting the kids get out and just run around and hang out in the streets in this space there. So again, that's I think like the clearest way to frame it. Go, well, what does it feel like? And just the fact that there is a closure there will just like all the areas around it will feel so much calmer and safer. And again, it's that through traffic, and it's handling for that growth in residential traffic. So yeah, anybody that's going through will be going a lot faster than anybody that actually lives there. So even if there's only like 50 cars a day, if they're all through traffic, then they're going to be a blight to the area, and that's going to stop everybody in the area from enjoying the space. So frame it by the purpose of the through movement as well. That makes sense. Okay. So Matt, if the street layout in the area determines that you need filters at various points and it's an area with narrow terraced housing, where's best to place filters? At the end or in the middle of the streets? Well, yeah, so it all comes down to like turning points. That's why I've been showing a few of these kind of angle ones. So if you can bend them round and look for crescents and things like that, which are brilliant places to drop filters, because people can get in and round like the closures that you do. But if you were to do like let's take Sorry, is that coming through? It's a bit bolder. There we go. So we take a narrow residential street like that. Now, if you were to drop a filter in the middle, then it's like, oh, well, how did they change? How did they go in there? But if you look at where there's a little crossroad there and you do like an angled one, so these can come out, get in there. These can, even if it's a really narrow little change like this. It's really kind of what we're doing. There's quite a few of these out there, but at least you've got the turning point. If you imagine that, you've got the turning points in there. If you do it mid-link, then it's like, well, then you've got refuse trucks reversing, you've got people getting a little bit annoyed. So just, I think like most of the skill is looking for how do you turn a vehicle if you put one there. And there's plenty of places in London where people coming in off A roads and they go all the way down and there's a closure midpoint, and then refuse trucks kind of go to the main road, reverse in and drive out. And, they're skilled enough to do that. But if you're expecting people to do lots of 3-point turns and it gets a bit tight, that can be a tricky sell. So I always try to look for turning points, just like face it around there. That's my one for that. Get a few more questions coming in. I'll look at that one later, Claire. I think if I open that link, I'd lose my screen and my marbles, so we don't want to do that. Always tell people that status quo isn't static. Traffic will continue to rise. Well, yeah, well, that's it. It has been rising. It's been doubling. So, yeah, I'm with Beth. Tell them that. Is that right? Is that right that people are just using your street as a cut through to avoid a junction, and everybody knows that your street's now a cut through? Let's do something about it. And back in the day, like, and there are thousands that, like, it's all on the cycle street stuff where they plotted all the existing filter points and closures to stop through traffic because people would have complained, and it was like, oh yeah, you got through traffic, we'll just put that in. And you mightn't necessarily have had the effect on the surrounding roads because people didn't have access to like a live satellite data telling them where the streets are. So it'd just be like, oh, we've solved that problem then. So lots of these things have come in over time. But now as drivers and like the equipment they use and the technology gets more sophisticated, we've got to tackle it. I always think like honestly, calling these things low traffic neighborhoods and having it focused around walking and cycling, it's just like stopping the through traffic. For me, it's just sensible traffic management, like we've always done, like we've done for the past 200 years. Have we managed these things? It's just now the cars are finding all the gaps that we've left. We've got to run around and plug those gaps. So anyway, keys to lockable bollards. Yeah, it's interesting, that one. Like, if you do a filter and you do the full closure, the ambulance question and stuff like that. Well, one, just involve them in it and make sure they know about it. And the whole purpose of a low traffic neighborhood, if you're following the logic puzzle, is that you can get access to absolutely anywhere. You just can't go through. So as long as that information's out there, then ambulances should be able to find it. Fire brigades, no one should effectively be trapped at any point needing a key. If you follow the logic puzzle properly, like, well, why can't you just go the way you go? You can get access to every single point. So why do you have to remove the bollard? I particularly like if you do my method of like the shortest amount of filters, because some people will go, well, it's going to be too difficult to do that one there. Like it's going to be, and just go back to the screen, it'd be too difficult to do this one here because we've got all, everybody's going to all kick off and stuff. So you start dropping loads of little ones. But as soon as you leave that gap, you've got a problem with the through traffic. And again, then it's like, oh, well, effectively, I don't know any low traffic neighborhood that people have been cut off from their house. It's just, it just doesn't happen. So effectively, they shouldn't need a key. The test is that we can kick you out of the house, Brian. Surely not, indeed. Definitely. That is the, well, I let my kids play out on the street sometime. They're like 8 and 6, and they've been doing it since they were 6 and 4, and are just in the house like, will they live? Will they not? Now the fair amount of traffic going on there, but you're going to go, well, yeah, you need a life with some kind of freedom. So Yeah, if everybody just decided to just kick all the kids out of the house again and not let them come back till it was dark, yeah, then the cars are going to have to adjust. It's going to be a little bit of a problem, but yeah, that's still a test. I always said like the B network was like successive. Like if someone just like walks for 10 minutes to the garage to get a packet of cigarettes rather than drives 2 minutes, then I'm happy. Just as long as that option's there. Okay, drivers have a different perspective from people walking and cycling, so the same space can provide very different experiences. Well, that's it. It's all that that view from behind the wheel of a car, when everything just becomes like a computer game of just like lines coming in as your perspective and the odd vertical thing in there, and it's not like the through movement and the crossing. You're at a different speed and you're in a different like a frame of mind and realm of consciousness, if you were, as well. If you're going in a different perspective at different speeds, it is like it's really dehumanizing. You're not really looking out for any of the joy that you get from walking or cycling. So yeah, you got it. People like are just automatically doing stuff based on where the curb lines are and where the signs are, and I'm not really seeing the richness around them. So yeah, put a big filter in there and make them have a little think about it. What get out of that area. Yeah, so yeah, definitely like that. Anything you can do for the kids and the playing, that's normally when you get like communities together and go, well, I want my kids to be able to get out of the house onto the street, and they can't at the moment. I want them to play. They need somewhere to get active. And we keep like telling people off for not being active enough, and yet you can see an area like this. Where are you supposed to be active? Well, your activities over here, and damn good it is too. But you know, and really, and the green spaces that there are all kind of utility and are probably closed off. You got a lot of people living right by the sea with like a little access. If they can get out, and we can like reduce the traffic on their streets, so you can get out again and talk to your neighbours and hang out, then that's going to be good for everybody's well-being, isn't it? Okay, I'll answer a few more. I was going to do a bit more design, but there's some really good questions coming in. I want to make sure that we cover them in a few minutes that we got left. Yeah, what about where the streets are narrow and two-way traffic is difficult? You have a build-up of emergency. So again, like it's that whole thing. Just plan where you put your crossing. So I just did one there on a narrow residential street, and everybody can still get round. So go through it. A little bit of planning of how you get into the area. Can't just go on and bomb through anymore. But everybody can get access. They just need to, think about it and plan it. And if you live there, then fine. And if you're a professional, it'll guide you through. As soon as these orders go through that you ban that movement, it's straight through to all the sat navs, and people get used to it. And if you've got a vested interest for going in that area, then you'll figure it out. And you can help people. And again, like I'm a real proponent of planning it with them and doing this kind of logic puzzle style where you're putting your area together and involving the people that use it. So yeah. That's all good. Yeah, and the Italian ones. Well, yeah, so David's question, like, does it need to be completely impermeable? Well, if you get to the point where it's so circuitous, you might as well stay on the main road. You can get away with not filtering everything. Just have a look. And once it gets too, when you're wiggling around everywhere to get it, then people are probably just going to stay on the main road. So it's that battle between like the journey times. So what happens when it's congested on the main road and the backing up from that junction? Will there be the desire to go through, or will they just start weaving around it anyway? That's the kind of balance. But theoretically, if you've got free flowing, you just make it a little bit more difficult, and they won't do it. So it's like that balancing. There's some really interesting stuff that people are doing with like a Google traffic and speed and seeing where they are cutting through. And again, I'll definitely point you to the cycle streets one, which will tell you where all the rat runs are. So plug them and see and work with people. And AMPR, definitely like it's good to know that you are going to enforce it. Otherwise, people will abuse it locally. But the big battle is through traffic, and to an extent, and I think the key to unlocking through traffic is just making it access only. You can back that up with number plate recognition, then brilliant. But even if you don't, then it instantly affects the sat navs, and you start winning. So you've only got your local. At least that filters, another 40% of the traffic out. So yeah, there's different ways of cracking it, but like let's just start eating into it and remember that it's going to be a live thing. You're not going to crack it. The Waltham Forest one's the best example of that. That they did one and they tested it, and then we shifted it all around for the final scheme. Worked and go, actually, this will work better. That'll work better there. So treat them as live. We're in a little bit of a game really, with like this massive increase on residential streets, and for me that's the way to frame it, and that's the puzzle that we need to solve for the benefit of people. I think that's the end of the workshop. It was till 1, wasn't it? So I should let you get on with your lunches now. Sorry I couldn't hear any of you. I can't wait to actually see you all again. There's some really good familiar names there, but I hope that gave you a little bit of a flavour of just think about it from the networking and plan it all together and try and involve people with it. So yeah, thanks for listening. I'll be back in half an hour to design a junction from scratch. So you have a little break from me. All right, everybody, thanks for listening, and enjoy